You've been doing it wrong your entire life. Not because you're careless, not because you didn't pay attention, because someone taught you something that was true in one situation, and you never questioned whether it was still true when everything changed. Boiling water eliminates bacteria. That's real. That's science. That works. But here's what nobody told you. There are situations where boiling water makes things worse, significantly worse. And those situations are exactly the ones that happen when a city starts to break down. I want you to think about something before we go any further. If the grid went down in your city tonight, not a 2-hour outage, a real one, the kind that doesn't come back in 48 hours, what would you do about water? Picture it. The lights go out. Your phone shows 11:47 p.m. The hum you never noticed, the refrigerator, the AC, the invisible electric pulse of the city stops. Silence, complete, unnatural. You turn the tap, water flows, for now. Most people have an answer ready. I'd boil it. It feels right. It feels safe. It feels like the responsible, informed thing to do. That confidence is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. The answer you trust is the one that fails you first. My name is Atomic Capybara. I study how cities break and how people survive when they do. And in every collapse scenario I've studied, every real one, not the Hollywood version, water is where the first critical mistakes happen. Not because people ignore it, because they think they already have the answer. Today I'm going to show you why that answer is incomplete. And I'm going to show you a $1 solution sitting in most homes right now that outperforms boiling in the scenarios that actually matter. But first, we need to talk about what's actually in your water, because this is where the story starts, and it's not the story most survival channels are telling you, and what they're not telling you could matter more than you realize. Your municipal water goes through extensive treatment, filtration, chemical dosing, pH balancing, all of it processed to be safe under normal conditions. Here's what changes everything. That entire process runs on electricity, pumps, dosing systems, monitoring equipment. When the grid goes down, treatment doesn't slow down, it stops. What's already in the pipes keeps flowing for a while. Pressure keeps things moving, but as that pressure drops, something else starts happening. The pipes that carry water to your home run underground through soil next to other infrastructure. When pressure drops below a certain threshold, the direction of flow can reverse in localized sections. Things that were outside the pipe can get in. This isn't theoretical. It's a documented phenomenon that water engineers call intrusion. It happens during extended outages. It happened during Katrina. It happens during earthquakes that damage pipe infrastructure. Day 3. That's when everything you thought you knew stops working. The water comes out brown, not clear turning brown. Brown from the moment it hits the sink. You smell it, metallic, wrong, like pennies dissolved in mud. This isn't the boiling works perfectly for biological contamination, waterborne bacteria, parasites, most pathogens. A rolling boil eliminates them. If your only concern is biological contamination from a natural source, boiling is a legitimate tool. Boiling works perfectly for biological contamination, waterborne bacteria, parasites, most pathogens. A rolling boil eliminates them. If your only concern is biological contamination from a natural source, boiling is a legitimate tool. Heavy metals. Lead pipes are more common than most people realize, particularly in older urban infrastructure. When water sits in compromised pipes during an extended outage, lead and other metals can leach into the water. Boiling does not remove heavy metals, it concentrates them. You start with contaminated water, you boil off some of the volume, and you end up with a smaller amount of more concentrated contaminated water. Chemical contamination. Urban water supplies run near industrial areas, near gas stations, near dry cleaners, near 100 different sources of chemical runoff. Under normal conditions, treatment handles this. Under collapse conditions, with damaged infrastructure and no active treatment, chemical contamination becomes a real variable. Boiling does not remove chemical contaminants. For volatile chemicals, the kind that evaporate at lower temperatures, boiling can actually release them into the air you're breathing while you stand over the pot. The pot boils, steam rises, you lean over, checking, waiting. The smell hits you. Chemical, sharp. like cleaning solvent heated to vapor. You're breathing what you were trying to eliminate. The practical problem nobody talks about. Boiling requires fuel. Fuel is finite. In an extended grid down situation, every resource has a value and a cost. The fuel you use to boil water on day 1 is fuel you don't have on day 10. Day 1 fuel, day 10 regret. The math doesn't lie. The people who survived extended urban collapses, the ones who made it weeks, not days, were the ones who treated every resource as non-renewable from hour 1. Boiling as a primary water strategy is a fuel budget problem that compounds over time. Post-disaster research shows a pattern. Residents with stockpiled equipment and standard protocols, including boiling, sometimes fared worse than neighbors with less gear but better resource decisions. The gap wasn't knowledge. Both groups knew the basics. The gap was adaptability. The people who had committed fully to one method, boiling, filtering, any single approach, were vulnerable the moment that method had a limitation they hadn't anticipated. The people who understood why their method worked and therefore understood when it wouldn't had options. Confidence without context is just expensive ignorance. David boiled water for 5 days straight. Propane stove. 3 canisters. On day 6, the propane ran out. His neighbors, who'd been treating water with bleach from day 1, still had full fuel reserves for cooking, for heat, for the things propane actually couldn't be replaced for. David learned the hard way. Boiling isn't free. That's what today is really about, not replacing boiling with something else. Understanding the full picture so that when your specific situation doesn't match the standard scenario, you're not caught without an answer. And the $1 solution I'm going to show you isn't a replacement for everything else. It's the gap filler, the thing that works in the scenarios where boiling falls short, the thing that's been in your home this whole time waiting for you to understand what it actually does. We'll get there, but before we do, take a second right now and think about where your water actually comes from. Not in general, specifically. What pipes run under your street? How old is your building's plumbing? Is there industrial infrastructure within a mile of your home? Most people have never asked these questions. The ones who survive extended urban situations are disproportionately the ones who had. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you looked at the label on a bottle of unscented liquid bleach? Not to do laundry, not to clean a surface, just looked at it and thought, this is a water treatment chemical. Most people haven't, because nobody framed it that way. The bottle sits under the sink next to the cleaning products in the category of household chemicals your brain files under, not for consumption. And that mental filing system, completely reasonable under normal circumstances, becomes a knowledge gap when circumstances stop being normal. You reach under the sink, past the dish soap, past the sponges, the yellow bottle, plastic warm from the pipes above it. You pull it out, the label, faded, covered in drip marks from a year of cleaning spills. Sodium hypochlorite, 6%. You've had this the whole time. Here's what that label actually contains. Sodium hypochlorite, the same active ingredient that municipal water treatment facilities have used for over a century to make water biologically safe. The concentration is different, the application is different, but the chemistry is identical. That bottle under your sink is a water treatment chemical. It has been this whole time. You've been drinking it your entire life. You just didn't know it was in your cabinet. Sodium hypochlorite works through oxidation. It releases hypochlorous acid, a compound that penetrates cell walls of bacteria, viruses, and contaminants. The pathogen can't reproduce, can't infect, neutralized at the molecular level. This isn't folk medicine. This is documented, peer-reviewed chemistry behind municipal water treatment worldwide. The water coming out of your tap right now has residual chlorine in it, a deliberate trace amount left by treatment facilities to continue protecting the water as it travels through distribution pipes to your home. You've been drinking treated water your entire life. The $1 bottle under your sink is a more concentrated version of the same treatment. The dosage matters enormously. This is where most people either dismiss the method because they're afraid of getting it wrong, or, more concerning, get it wrong because they didn't take it seriously enough. The standard guidance for treating clear water is straightforward, approximately 8 drops of unscented liquid bleach per gallon of water at a concentration of around 6% sodium hypochlorite. For cloudy water, water with visible particles or turbidity, the amount doubles. You mix it in, you wait 30 minutes, and you smell the water. A faint chlorine smell tells you the treatment worked. No smell means the contamination load was high enough to consume the bleach. Add another dose and wait again. 8 drops fall into the gallon jug. clear. Tiny, you watch them disappear into the water. 30 minutes, you wait, you smell it. Faint chlorine, like a pool on a summer day, not overpowering, just enough, safe. That's it, that's the protocol. 8 drops. 30 minutes, that's the difference between safe and sorry. Sarah had never treated water with bleach before. She was scared. What if she got the dosage wrong? She counted the drops twice. 8, exactly 8. 30 minutes felt like an hour. When she smelled that faint chlorine, relief. She'd done it right. Her kids had clean water. Day 1 became day 10. Day 10 became day 30. The bottle still had half left. Chlorine treatment is highly effective against biological contamination, bacteria, most viruses, the pathogens responsible for the waterborne illnesses that historically affected people in post-disaster situations, cholera, typhoid, dysentery, the threats that impacted people in the aftermath of earthquakes, floods, and infrastructure failures throughout history. Chlorine addresses all of these. What it doesn't address: heavy metals, chemical contamination, and radiological contamination. This is why I said earlier that the $1 solution is a gap filler, not a replacement for everything. It fills the specific gap where boiling falls short, chemical and metal contamination, while boiling fills the gap where chlorine treatment is less reliable, which is water with very high biological load, or specific pathogen types that require heat to neutralize. Boiling concentrates contaminants, chlorine neutralizes them. Choose wisely. The complete urban water protocol isn't boiling or chlorine treatment, it's understanding which threat you're facing and applying the right tool. Standard grid down with compromised municipal water, chlorine treatment, industrial contamination near chemical infrastructure, filtration first, then treatment, radiological contamination, neither works. Shelter and source selection become the priority. A standard 96-ounce bottle of unscented liquid bleach costs approximately $1 to $3 at any grocery store. At the dosage we discussed, 8 drops per gallon, that bottle contains enough treatment capacity for roughly 10,000 gallons of water. 10,000 gallons. 13 years, 1 bottle. The math is almost absurd. The average person drinks about half a gallon per day for basic hydration. For a family of 4, basic drinking water needs run about 2 gallons per day. That $1 to $3 bottle covers your family's drinking water for over 13 years at that consumption rate. Now compare that resource footprint to boiling. Each boiling session consumes fuel, propane, wood, whatever your heat source is. Fuel is finite, bulky to store, and increasingly difficult to obtain as a grid down situation extends. The people who entered extended collapse situations dependent on boiling as their primary water strategy faced a compounding problem. As their fuel reserves depleted, their water security degraded proportionally. Day 1, they boiled. Day 30, they had nothing left to burn. The people who had chlorine treatment as a primary method and boiling as a backup had a fundamentally different resource math. Their primary water security didn't consume fuel. Their fuel reserves stayed available for heating, cooking, and other critical needs. This is what I mean when I say survival isn't about having the most gear. It's about understanding the resource relationships between your tools, so that using one doesn't silently deplete another. Go check under your sink or wherever you keep cleaning supplies. Look for liquid bleach. Check the label. You're looking for 2 things, the word unscented and a sodium hypochlorite concentration between 6% and 8.25%. If you don't have any, that's $1 to $3 the next time you're at any grocery store. One item, one aisle, solves a significant portion of your urban water security for years. The gap between prepared and unprepared is rarely as large as people assume. Sometimes it's 1 bottle on a shelf and the knowledge of what it actually does. You now have the knowledge. The bottle is the easy part. You found the bleach. Good. Now here's the mistake that makes everything you just learned useless. Most people, when they think about water storage, picture full containers, big jugs, sealed bottles, everything neat and ready. What they don't picture is what happens inside those containers over time, and why the water they stored last year may be less safe than water they treat fresh today. Water doesn't stay safe indefinitely just because you sealed it. Here's why. Tap water that comes out of your faucet contains residual chlorine, that deliberate trace amount from municipal treatment we talked about earlier. That residual chlorine is what keeps water safe as it travels through pipes to your home. When you fill a container and seal it, that residual chlorine starts dissipating. Within 6 months in a sealed container stored at room temperature, residual chlorine levels drop significantly. Within a year, they may be effectively zero. The water isn't necessarily contaminated, but its active protection is gone. 6 months, that's when safe becomes uncertain. This means water you stored 12 months ago is sitting in a container with no active defense against biological contamination. If any bacteria entered during filling, from the container walls, from the tap, from the air, they've had months to establish themselves. You open the jug you filled last summer. The seal breaks, plastic and stale air. The water looks clear, smells like nothing. That's the problem. No chlorine smell, no protection, just water that's been sitting in darkness for 12 months, hoping nothing grew. Marcus stored 20 gallons 2 years ago, sealed tight, never checked. Day 3 of the outage, he opened the first jug. Clear water, no smell. He drank it without treating. By day 5, he was sick, stomach cramps, dehydration. His neighbor, who'd treated stored water before drinking, stayed healthy. Same water source, different knowledge. The fix is simple. When you open stored water that's been sitting longer than 6 months, treat it. 8 drops per gallon, 30-minute wait. You're not necessarily treating contamination, you're restoring the active protection that storage depleted. 8 drops, 30 minutes, protection restored. That's simple. Now let's make this practical. Different water sources require different approaches. Scenario 1, municipal tap water, first 24 hours, pressure still present, water recently treated. Action, collect everything, bathtubs, jugs, pots, don't treat yet, residual chlorine is still active. The grid goes down. You move fast. Bathtub first. Plug in, faucet on full. The sound of rushing water fills the bathroom. Gallon jugs next. Pots, bowls, anything that holds liquid. Your hands shake, filling the last bottle. The pressure drops. The flow slows to a trickle, then stops. You got enough, barely. Scenario 2, tap water after 48 plus hours. Pressure dropped, intrusion risk real. Action, pre-filter if cloudy, then treat. 8 drops per gallon, 30 minutes, smell test. If no chlorine smell, repeat dose and wait again. Scenario 3, collected rainwater. Biologically clean as it falls, contamination from collection surface, rooftops, gutters. Action, pre-filter to remove particles, then chlorine treatment. Urban rainwater can carry atmospheric pollutants. Your judgment about your location matters. Scenario 4, natural sources, rivers, lakes, standing water. Maximum contamination risk. Action, pre-filter multiple layers of cloth, removing all visible turbidity. Treat with chlorine for biological threats. For urban sources, near industrial areas, chemical contamination is a variable neither boiling nor chlorine fully addresses. Your goal here is finding a better source, not perfecting treatment of a compromised one. 4 scenarios. 4 responses. Know yours before you need it. There's a $3 edition that turns everything we've discussed into a complete water security system. Pool test strips. Available at any hardware store or pool supply section. They measure chlorine levels in water. After treatment, you dip 1 strip, compare the color to the chart, and you know whether your chlorine level is in the safe range. High enough to have neutralized biological threats, low enough to be safe for drinking. You dip the test strip into the treated water, pull it out, the paper darkens, shifting from white to yellow to green. You compare it to the chart on the bottle. Green, safe range, high enough to neutralize threats, low enough to drink. Chemistry confirmed, no guessing. This removes the guesswork entirely. You're not relying on the smell test alone. You have measurable confirmation that treatment worked. The complete kit. 1 bottle of unscented bleach, 1 package of pool test strips, total cost under $5, total water security coverage for years. $5. Complete water security. The gap is almost offensive. That's the $1 solution in full context. The bleach is the treatment. The test strips are the confirmation. Together, they give you something that a $300 filtration system can't give you. The ability to treat large volumes of water indefinitely with chemical confirmation that treatment worked at a resource cost that doesn't deplete your fuel or your budget. Post-disaster research shows survivors followed a pattern, diversified methods, pre-filtered before treating, tested instead of assumed, rotated stored water. None require expensive equipment. All require understanding why each step matters so that when conditions change, the behavior adapts correctly rather than failing silently. The people who got sick weren't the ones who had no knowledge. They were the ones who had partial knowledge, who knew to boil but didn't know about heavy metals, or who treated water but stored it incorrectly, or who had good equipment but didn't understand the limitations. Partial knowledge fails you when it matters most. Complete knowledge keeps you ahead of it. Complete knowledge about urban water survival fits in one conversation. You now have it. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Not a list, not a shopping cart full of gear. One clear picture of where you actually stand and exactly what changes it. Water arrives in 3 conditions. Each one has a response. Clear water from a known source. Municipal tap during early outage. Sealed stored water under 6 months old. 8 drops of unscented bleach per gallon. Wait 30 minutes. Test with pool strip. Drink. Cloudy water from any source. Visible particles. Turbidity. Unknown origin. Filter first through multiple layers of clean cloth until water runs clear. Then 16 drops per gallon. Wait 30 minutes. Test. If strip shows insufficient chlorine, add 8 more drops and wait again. Compromised water near industrial areas or damaged infrastructure. Filter, treat, but treat this as a temporary measure while you find a better source. Chlorine handles biology, it doesn't handle chemistry. Your goal here is relocation of your water source, not perfection of treatment. That's the entire decision tree. 3 conditions, 3 responses, memorizable in 60 seconds. Right now, not after the video, not tomorrow. Do this. You walk to the cabinet, reach under the sink, the yellow bottle, you pull it out, turn it over, read the label, sodium hypochlorite, 6%, good. You grab a marker, black Sharpie, and write today's date on the side, March 16th, 2026. 1 year from now, you'll replace it. Simple, done. Go to wherever you keep cleaning supplies, find unscented liquid bleach, check the concentration on the label, write the date you bought it on the bottle with a marker because bleach loses potency over time and a bottle older than 1 year should be replaced. If you don't have it, add it to your next grocery run. 1 bottle, under $3, any store, then find your water containers. You check the dates, basement, closet, wherever you put them and forgot. August 2024, 10 months old. You open one, clear, odorless, looks fine. 8 drops of bleach. 30 minutes. Now it is fine. Protection restored. Check when you filled them. Anything over 6 months, treat it before you need it, not after. That's 10 minutes. That's the difference between having a water system and having water stored somewhere hoping it's still good. 10 minutes now. Years of security. The trade is almost embarrassing. 1 bottle unscented liquid bleach. 6% to 8.25% sodium hypochlorite. Brand doesn't matter. $1 to $3. 1 package pool test strips. Chlorine test range 0-10 ppm. Any hardware store. $3 to $5. Optional. Gallon water containers if you don't have them. $2 each. Total cost under $10. Total coverage, years. This isn't replacing a $300 filter system. It's doing what that system can't. Filters clog, cartridges run out, replacement parts become unavailable in extended collapse. Bleach doesn't clog, test strips don't wear out. The chemistry works whether the supply chain does or not. That's the difference between gear and knowledge. Every other survival priority, food, warmth, security, assumes you're still functional. Dehydration compromises judgment within hours. Waterborne illness can incapacitate within days. Water isn't one item on a preparation list. It's the foundation everything else rests on. Water first. Everything else second. That's not philosophy, that's physiology. The cities that have experienced extended grid down situations, the ones where researchers documented what actually happened to residents over weeks, not days, consistently showed the same pattern. The people who maintained clean water access stayed healthier, made better decisions, and extended their functional window long enough for situations to resolve or for them to make better moves. Jennifer treated water from day 1. Bleach. Test strips, protocol. 6 weeks into the outage, she was still healthy, making decisions, helping neighbors. The family across the street who'd relied on boiling until fuel ran out wasn't. Same grid, same crisis, different preparation. The people who ran out of water solutions early made increasingly desperate decisions, drank untreated water, got sick, lost the ability to make good choices at exactly the moment good choices mattered most. Day 1, careful. Day 10, desperate. Day 20, consequences. Your $1 bottle of bleach and $3 of test strips is not a small thing dressed up as a big thing. It is genuinely one of the highest leverage preparations you can make because it protects the foundation that everything else depends on. If this changed how you think about water, share it with one person in your city who doesn't know this yet. Not because we need the views, because the person you share it with might be your neighbor. And in an extended grid down situation, a neighbor who knows how to maintain clean water is an asset to both of you. Urban survival isn't solo. It never was. The cities that came back from extended crises came back because enough people made enough correct small decisions to keep the human infrastructure functioning while the physical infrastructure recovered. You just made one correct decision. You now know something most people in your city don't. That's where it starts.